The following podcast is provided by Era Living, innovator in residential retirement options since 1987. And welcome everyone to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are excited again to be featuring a wonderful resident from Era Living community, which is Aljoya Thornton Place, and that is in Northgate, up near Northgate Mall, in northern Seattle. And so one of the things that's really great about Era Living being on our platform is we get the opportunity to speak with some of their residents and they tell their stories. And I think this is more important than anything else because it's important that you hear from someone that's gone through the process, that's moved into a community. And I want to introduce to our listeners an amazing lady by the name of Kathy Swanson. And Kathy, welcome to Answers for Elders.
Thank you.
I am really excited to talk to you because you obviously went through the process, Kathy, of moving into Aljoya Thornton Place. But before that happened, what was your background like?
Well, I was a high school teacher. Some years it was junior high also. I lived in Seattle. I grew up right across the street from where Ida Culver House Broadview is.
Oh my
That
goodness.
home is still there. My dad bought it in 1950 and they moved from it in 1994. So that was my home. And I went to Broadview Elementary, grew up, went to all the high schools, the schools in Seattle. And I, every once in a while, go back to look at that old house. And now I'm right across the street from where Ida Culver House is.
Oh my goodness. Isn't that amazing?
It is. It is. And then my mom and I would go shopping at Northgate every Saturday when I was about 7 years old. Now that community is now over 70 years old. And wouldn't you know that I move into Aljoya Thornton Place, Northgate, which is just 2 blocks from that area that I went shopping with my mom. And now it is the home of the Kraken. Complex, and that's become really famous. And they're putting in Central Park. It's just divine. But yeah, I did a lot of teaching. I lived for 50 years though with my husband and my children in the Pierce County, and all the rest of my family members lived here in Seattle. So it was perfect for me when I started looking. I didn't really look until my sister said, and she worked for With a Little Help, which is an agency in Seattle. And she was the coordinator of the staff members that would go to people's homes, elder people who live by themselves. They would take care of their health needs during the day. My sister got to join a group that was on a field trip to various senior communities. And wouldn't you know that Aljoya Thornton Place was one of them. I'm the oldest of 4. And my family was thinking, it's about time you think about moving. And that was at the time I was 76. Actually, I was 74 when I started looking, but only to this one place she suggested. And then I was done looking. I said, yes, this is for me. But in the meantime, before I put down my deposit, I brought other family members here. I brought friends. I took advantage of the opportunities to come for lunch or join a Scrabble game or something, just to get the feel of the community. Now, in the meantime, this was coming up on COVID. I moved in 2020 and now in August, which was the height of the COVID. So after I had visited those times and got a feel for it, it was wonderful. I knew that's where I wanted to move. I did not even see my apartment till the day I moved in. Mariah, who is the community resource director, she sent me a wonderful video of every square 805 square feet of my
That's wonderful.
I got the call about the availability in springtime of 2020 while I was with the same siblings at a mountain place cabin. And I ran it by them and said, "Oh, of course, take it. Yes, say yes." I did.
Oh, yay.
So, but I made the move. In August of 2020, when I got the call, I knew I had that much time to prepare. I knew I needed to sell my home. I had a realtor, Rosie the realtor. And the thing is, during COVID, we couldn't have an open house.
No.
There was a sign up on my front yard, but I hadn't had any visitors yet until one of my neighbor's relatives came by and saw this sign, and they came up, knocked on the door. They both had masks on and they wanted to see the place. I said, "Well, you can't really until you come with your realtor." So I got a call. That's the way they did it back in the day. You had to make the appointment with them. So then they did end up buying it, and they had sold their house and had cash. The money came to me the very day that I paid the remaining balance of my move-in fee to Aljoya Thornton Place. And then the day I moved in, my daughter joined me, and Catherine and I had talked on the phone about where things could go. Of course, I got the floor plan, and Mariah had sent me this video of every square foot, and I was able to decide, okay, this can go there, this can go there.
Yes.
And by the time I moved in, the movers came into my apartment with furniture, and I knew, and Catherine was with me. She said, "Well, this goes there, this goes," and it was a wonderful move.
Yeah.
Such a privilege. Yeah.
It's so interesting. So, Kathy, I have a question for you. What was the easiest thing and what was the hardest thing about your move?
Well, the easiest thing was being able to sell during COVID and to have the support of family and to have the opportunity to come several times and visit and get a feeling for the social atmosphere, to see the opportunities. One time I went to a play. I paid for my ticket ahead of time, but in the van with other Aljoya people, we went to see a play. That was lovely. I met some of the people there that I now see regularly here. It was really easy to make that move. And having made the decision 2 years before, knowing and having visited,
and you had adequate time to prepare that way. You didn't just jump on you, which was really good. Right. And, I love the fact that you actually started it on your own. And I think that's the easiest and most important thing. So many families, they, first of all, their senior loved one doesn't make the decision. And then the family is left when it's an emergency crisis, and they don't get that senior doesn't get the opportunity to do like what you did. So that's really important. So what would you find? Obviously you moved during COVID. That should have been partly the hardest thing.
Yes, it was. When I got the call in the spring, knowing that I would be moving in August, I tried to think, how can I do this? Because everybody had to be 6 feet apart. And when I called charity organizations, Goodwill would not come out with a truck. Couldn't get Habitat for Humanity. Nobody. I did have some connections with, I volunteered at the organization World Relief in Kent. And I met a lot of new immigrants. One of them, Natalia, is still a close friend. And I visit her now sometimes. In her neighborhood in Auburn. She still has she had a mom and dad living in Ukraine. We met before the war, but at any rate, I was able to give them some of my furniture. I had a friend with a truck, and I took over a bed and the children's desk and all the games that my kids played with when they were young.
Oh, that was nice.
And so, and we talked, we had a WhatsApp connection. And so I was still one of her mentors for learning English. And yeah, it's delightful. Now,
Yeah.
recently we had set up an appointment where I was going to come by her house again. And she said, she writes to me the day before and texts me and said, my mom is coming. My mom is coming.
Oh,
Ukraine. And so she's here now and gets to stay with them. Her
oh,
brother.
wonderful.
At
So
any rate,
what
that was,
advice? Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, what advice do you have to give to others who are starting to think about moving to a community?
I would say really search your soul. Make sure it's what you want to do, because this is going to be your lifetime home.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just, 4 years later, oh, I think I like that place better. It's just not practical.
Mm-hmm.
So, visit, ask questions, talk to people, and, think about things like, well, what's their maintenance service like? What's the food like?
Mm-hmm.
What activities can I get involved in? What are the staff like? Is there a
Yeah.
mutual respect between the residents and the staff? And I have to say, I can't have asked for more perfect
Yeah.
relationships here. I've never heard any bickering between staff and residents.
Isn't
They're
that
always so
wonderful?
kind. They learn to know our names right away. And I'm not sure how, because we were all wearing masks and in fact, we only within the last couple of months don't wear masks, and I had to learn how to recognize
Oh,
people. But anyway, yeah, I just really like it here.
yeah. Well, you look like somebody that I would love to have a friendship with if I lived in a community like that. And you are an amazing person. And you know what? I'm so glad you shared your story, because I think these things are important for people that are considering going into senior living. And your advice is well taken. I agree.
Thank you. One of the things, I know a lot of people from the East Coast that moved here because
Mhm.
their adult children and
Right.
grandchildren are here. And
Mhm.
that's, of course, something that would be a big incentive for
Sure.
people.
Yeah. Well, I am really glad we got a chance to meet you, Kathy. And thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being with us today.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate talking with you.
And each one of you, if you're interested in checking out Era Living, I encourage you to do so. If you're in the greater Seattle area, you can reach out to them at their website on Era Living. That's ERA living.com. Era Living is locally owned and operates 8 premier retirement communities in Seattle, Renton, Mercer Island, Bellevue, and Issaquah. From vibrant, independent living to compassionate assisted living to secure memory care, Era Living respects and honors older adults by enhancing the quality of their lives. Learn more at eraliving.com.